Councilman Mendelson, did you vote with the rest of the city council to defund the police by $15 million in 2020?
I don't believe that's the correct amount, but I did vote for the budget then.
You did. Okay. Councilman, did you call the police in July 2025 because of a protest outside of your home?
I called 911.
Okay.
It was at midnight. In fact, it was 12:30 in the morning.
Right.
And it was a number of individuals who were actually breaking the law, the Residential Tranquility Act, with how loud they were.
Okay, so you voted to defund policing by $15 million in 2020 with the rest of the council. This is what the police union, police officers had to say about your interaction
I know what
with
you're going to say, and I've already said to Mr. Pemberton.
Well, I'm going to say it, so you're not going to interrupt me. Over the weekend, Chairman Mendelson called the police because there were peaceful protesters at his house, because he decimated the police department with horrible legislation, and our staffing has now 800-plus vacancies. There was a delay in responding to his home. Because of the delay, Chairman Mendelson called and screamed at OUC and MPD staff. There is now a permanent security detail at his home staffed by an MPD officer who should be handling more important matters. We currently have 3,100 total sworn members, the lowest in 50 years, and we now have to dedicate one of them to be a security blanket for a man who hates cops, while other people calling 911 for real emergencies will have to wait.
This may look like a routine exchange over crime statistics, but it's actually a stress test of governance under pressure. What's really being tested here is whether leaders are accountable to the consequences of their own policies or insulated from them. This raises broader questions about power, responsibility, and equal application of public safety. In this video, we'll break down how crime policy, enforcement choices, and personal privilege collide inside America's capital.
The chair recognizes Mr. Crane from Arizona.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to say thank you to the guests for showing up today. Since I only have 5 minutes, my first question is going to be a yes or no. Does D.C. have a crime problem, Mayor Bowser?
Any crime is too much crime, Mr. Crane, but we're trending in the right direction.
Sorry, just yes or no?
It's not a yes or no question.
Okay. Chairman Mendelson, does D.C. have a crime problem, yes or no?
There is more crime than we want, but it is significantly
All right, I'm moving
less.
on since you can't follow the instructions. Attorney General, does D.C. have a crime problem, yes or no?
One crime is one too many. We got to keep working at it.
Mr. Jackson?
One crime is one too many. I agree.
Thank you. Do you guys know where D.C. ranks amongst U.S. cities in crime, Mayor Bowser?
In what category?
Crime rates.
You would have to be more specific, and I don't have a list of other cities.
You guys
or
actually
states.
rank number 7.
Okay.
So you're in the top 10 of most violent cities in the United States, and this is, as other members have pointed out, our nation's capital. A lot of people come here. And Mayor, I know you, like many of my colleagues have already mentioned, you got a very tough job, and we all appreciate that.
It all depends on how you crunch the numbers.
Hold on a second. I didn't ask you a question.
News and World Report didn't
Has
place us in
crime
the
gone
top
down?
25.
Hey, hold on a second. I'm asking the questions here. Has crime gone down since the president deployed the National Guard and other federal agencies, Mayor Bowser?
I already mentioned, Congressman, the numbers during the federal surge.
So it has gone down?
It accelerated, yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mendelson, you said in criticism to the National Guard being present in D.C., you said that they look bored. I'm going to ask you a question, sir. Would you rather have National Guardsmen standing posts around D.C. looking bored but driving down crime, or continue to be ranked in the top 10 in the country in violent crime?
Well, as I was trying to say, depending upon how you look at the data, we don't even place in the top 25. Now, in my testimony, I outlined
That's definitely not the
ways.
reporting that I've seen. You
Well,
guys
US News and
are
World
ranked number
Report.
7.
U.S.
You guys
News
are
and
ranked
World
number
Report,
7.
you can see that study.
All right, moving on. Councilman Mendelson, did you vote with the rest of the city council to defund the police by $15 million in 2020?
I don't believe that's the correct amount, but I did vote for the budget then.
You did. Okay, Councilman, did you call the police in July 2025 because of a protest outside of your home?
I called 911.
Okay.
It was at midnight. In fact, it was 12:30 in the morning.
Right.
And it was a number of individuals who were actually breaking the law, the Residential Tranquility Act, with how loud they were.
Okay, so you voted to defund policing by $15 million in 2020 with the rest of the council. This is what the police union, police officers had to say about your interaction with the police.
I know what you're going to say, and I've already said to Mr. Pemberton.
Well, I'm going to say it, so you're not going to interrupt me. Over the weekend, Chairman Mendelson called the police because there were peaceful protesters at his house, because he decimated the police department with horrible legislation, and our staffing has now 800-plus vacancies. There was a delay in responding to his home. Because of the delay, Chairman Mendelson called and screamed at OUC and MPD staff. There is now a permanent security detail at his home staffed by an MPD officer who should be handling more important matters. We currently have 3,100 total sworn members, the lowest in 50 years, and we now have to dedicate one of them to be a security blanket for a man who hates cops, while other people calling 911 for real emergencies will have to wait. This nonsense must end immediately. So that's what the police department had to say about you
police
in that
union,
incident.
not police
The poli-
department,
Yeah, the
sir.
police union. The union that
I'm aware of
represents
that
police
statement,
officers.
and it's false on
Do they
numerous
represent police
points.
officers, Mr. Mendelson? The police union?
It's the union
Thank you.
president.
Okay, Attorney General Schwab, do you agree that all legal measures should be on the table to combat crime and lawlessness in the city?
I do.
Okay. Then why historically has the D.C. Attorney General declined to prosecute crimes? According to media reports, D.C. declined to prosecute crimes in 67% of arrests in 2023 under AG Graves. The D.C. quarterly clearance reports from your office show a similar trend in 2025 through Q1 and 2. You are only prosecuting 53% of gun-related homicides, 50% of sex abuse cases involving a knife, and 37% of non-fatal shootings. There is also an ongoing investigation into if the D.C. crime data was manipulated under Joe Biden so that historic level of crime didn't look as bad on paper. And I look forward to the outcome of this investigation. Now,
Mr. Crane, if I can
going
answer
back to your
can I answer your
initial
question?
answer, is that doing everything you can to protect the city?
The statistics that you just read are the statistics not from my office, but from the federal U.S. Attorney's Office. The prosecution rates from the Office of Attorney General have been in excess of 84% for violent crime over the last 2 years. So the statistics you rely on to malign my office don't come from my office. They come from the federal U.S. Attorney's Office.
So you're prosecuting all of these crimes, is what you're saying?
The jurisdiction of the Office of Attorney General in the District of Columbia is to prosecute juvenile delinquency crimes, and last year we prosecuted more than 84% of the violent juvenile crimes that MD brought to us. We prosecute every violent crime where we have sufficient evidence to meet our burden of proof. Kids need to face consequences and be held accountable, and we are doing that. The rates speak for themselves.
Are you in support of moving the age of minors here in D.C.? That's one of the bills that we have this week.
The residents of the District of Columbia, the 700,000 of us who live here, know more and care more about how we're going to make our city safe than anybody else.
You didn't answer my question.
The residents of the District of Columbia and their elected officials do not believe we're going to make ourselves safer.
Why do you think the rest of the country considers somebody at 18 years old no longer a minor? Yeah, what is it here in D.C.?
The age of anyone younger than 18 is a juvenile in the District of Columbia, just like the rest of the country.
Don't you guys consider people that are 20, 25 and below minors?
I think you
The gentleman's
misunderstand
time's
the law,
expired,
sir.
but feel free to answer that, General.
Well, I think you're misunderstanding the law, and I think you're referring to the Youth Rehabilitation Act. But in our city, youth younger than 18 are treated as juveniles. The Youth Rehabilitation Act involves a totally different set of adult defendants in criminal cases and involves a different issue that the city has confronted. And I think that issue has been conflated in some of the laws that this body has put forth. And I really wish we could have had a conversation beforehand so we could have explained better what the YRA does relative to all of the other laws that we have in our city that we're working every day to help drive juvenile crime and violent crime down. Thank you.
So you support the Youth Rehabilitation Act? I think that was the question, one of the questions he was asking. Do you support that?
The question was whether or not
Do you support the Youth Rehabilitation Act? That's part of what we're
Chair,
repealing.
2.5 minutes over.
Okay, all right. Time's expired.
The moment that lingered in the room did not come from a long speech or a dramatic outburst. It came from a simple demand. Yes or no? Congressman Eli Crane asked a question that should have been easy to answer, and instead it exposed how difficult truth can become when politics, responsibility, and public safety collide. Does the District of Columbia have a crime problem? Again and again, the question was asked. Again and again, it was avoided, reframed, softened, redirected. And in that refusal to answer plainly, the hearing revealed far more than any statistic ever could. What unfolded was not just a debate over numbers or rankings. It was a confrontation between two very different instincts in government. One instinct seeks clarity, accountability, and direct answers. The other seeks context, explanation, and insulation from blame. Mayor Muriel Bowser and other district officials did not deny that problems exist, but they resisted the framing itself. Any crime is too much crime, they said. It's not a yes or no question. Those words may sound responsible on paper, but in a hearing room charged with urgency, they landed as deflection. And deflection, in moments like this, carries its own consequences. The nation's capital is not just another city, it is the symbolic heart of American governance. Millions pass through it. Decisions made there ripple outward to every corner of the country. When a member of Congress points out that the district ranks among the top cities for serious crime, the issue is not embarrassment. It is trust. Trust that leaders will confront reality honestly. Trust that power is matched with responsibility. Trust that the people who govern are willing to say clearly when something is not working. As the exchange continued, the tension sharpened. Congressman Crane pressed again, narrowing the scope, tightening the language, refusing to let the conversation drift. Had conditions improved after the federal government deployed the National Guard and other agencies? This time, the answer came. Yes, crime had gone down. The acceleration mattered. It mattered because it suggested that decisive action, however controversial, had produced results. And it mattered because it raised an uncomfortable question. If outside intervention helped, why was it resisted so strongly in the first place? That discomfort surfaced when criticism of the National Guard was revisited. One official had described the guardsmen as looking bored. Crane's response cut through the rhetoric. Would you rather have them standing post, looking bored but reducing crime, or continue to see the city ranked among the most dangerous? It was not a rhetorical flourish. It was a moral question about priorities, safety versus optics, results versus narratives. In that moment, the hearing stopped being about policy and became about values. The exchange then turned inward toward decisions made years earlier. Votes to reduce police funding, staffing levels at historic lows, the contradiction between advocating for fewer resources and relying on emergency services when personal safety felt threatened. When the story of a late-night call to 911 was raised, the room grew even quieter. Not because the incident was unique, but because it was familiar. Leaders who shape policy are not immune from its consequences. And when those consequences arrive at their own doorstep, the disconnect becomes impossible to ignore. The reading of the police union's statement intensified that divide. It was raw, accusatory, and deeply frustrated. It spoke of vacancies, delayed responses, and officers reassigned from broader duties to protect individual officials. Whether every detail was disputed or not, the sentiment was unmistakable. Morale matters, perception matters, and when those tasked with enforcing the law feel undermined by the very people who rely on them, the system begins to fracture from within. The hearing did not stop there. It moved into prosecution rates, accountability, and the question of consequences. Congressman Crane cited data suggesting large percentages of cases were not being prosecuted. The Attorney General pushed back, clarifying jurisdiction and pointing to higher rates within his office's authority. What emerged was not a simple dispute over numbers, but a complex portrait of fragmented responsibility. Federal prosecutors, local prosecutors, juvenile cases, adult cases, each explanation added a layer, and with each layer, the public's understanding grew murkier. That complexity is real, but complexity can also become a shield. When citizens hear conflicting statistics and overlapping jurisdictions, confidence erodes. People do not experience public safety through quarterly reports or jurisdictional charts. They experience it in real time, on real streets, through response times and visible presence. And when accountability feels diffuse, when no single office seems fully responsible, frustration fills the gap. The discussion of youth laws and rehabilitation added another dimension. Officials spoke of compassion, rehabilitation, and local control. Congressman Crane spoke of standards shared by the rest of the country. At its core, this was a debate about balance between mercy and accountability, between local autonomy and national expectations, between long-term solutions and immediate consequences. These are not easy questions, but they demand honesty, not evasion. By the time the gavel fell and time expired, no grand resolution had been reached. But something important had happened. A contrast had been drawn. On one side, a demand for plain answers and measurable outcomes. On the other, a defense built on nuance, process, and explanation. Neither side walked away unscathed, and that perhaps is the point. Democracy is not supposed to be comfortable. Oversight is not meant to be polite. It exists to surface contradictions, to force clarity, and to remind those in power that they serve the public, not the other way around. When a simple yes or no becomes impossible to say, it signals a deeper problem than statistics alone can explain. The question facing viewers now is not who won the exchange. It is what kind of leadership they expect. Leadership that speaks plainly even when the truth is inconvenient. Or leadership that manages perception, hoping complexity will dull accountability. The future of public trust depends on that choice. This hearing was not just about one city. It was about whether government can still confront reality without flinching, whether officials can acknowledge failure as the first step toward reform, and whether oversight still has the power to demand answers that matter. If you believe accountability matters, if you believe clarity is not cruelty, and if you believe the American people deserve straight answers from those in power, stay engaged. Subscribe to Liberty Report USA. Support our work to expose the truth.